Andy, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, dude. I'm excited to talk with you. So for the people who aren't familiar with you or Alitura Naturals, what are you best known for?
Oh man, well, I was in a big accident in 2011 where I was crossing the street, looking down at my phone, waiting for my Uber to arrive, and I got hit by a westbound heading Land Rover and hit into the eastbound lane and run over by a Toyota Tundra. I lost consciousness, and man, I was just in the middle of Melrose, a busy street, on a Saturday night, getting my clothes cut off me in the middle of the street by first responders and the EMT team, and rushed to Cedars-Sinai Hospital here in Los Angeles. And lucky to be alive, you know? I mean, I just woke up in an ICU bed with a very bad compound fracture of my jaw. I mean, my chin was sticking through the bottom of my mouth. I had 7 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and I mean, this whole left side of my face from the middle of my chin to just beneath my left ear was just in pieces. And so I was on a morphine drip, and, you know, you think, I don't know if you've ever been on morphine, but you're kind of like, what's going on? I had 2 of my friends in the room with me, and both of them were just holding their heads, and just, they saw me or they heard me kind of just like fumbling around, and they just like, sprung right up and like, no, don't talk, because the whole goal was to piece the particles of my jaw back together. And yeah, man, I mean, it was a rough thing to look at when you first see yourself in the mirror with a bad compound fracture like that. But I mean, one of my nurses was an ex-Marine, and when I left the hospital almost a week later, he's like, any day you can walk out of a hospital, that's a good day. So, I mean, that's kind of set the tone for my recovery as far as perspective, and just, people don't survive accidents like that. And I went home, I was kind of excited in a weird way, just like, man, I got a second chance. Clearly I'm here for a reason. And now it was just, about recovering and being excited to be able to recover. You know what I mean? And so I just, once my parents and family members left and they had to go back to work, my jaw was wired shut. My teeth were all nubs from hitting the concrete. So my jaw was very swollen. So, and I was in a lot of pain from head to toe. And I didn't want to leave the house. There's so much information out there. And I just took it upon myself to start researching spa treatments, isolating certain ingredients. So yeah, I mean, long story short, to answer your question, I guess I'm known for, skincare right now, but it was purely out of necessity. Just, I never intended to have a product or start a business, but that product, quote unquote, the clay mask that I made to regenerate my skin and heal myself from the inside out, basically by pulling out the impurities and lightly exfoliating the skin and reintroducing minerals that we lose as we age, I found out is now, I mean, just a cutting edge, one of the most popular anti-aging treatments, used right now, definitely in the health and wellness space. So here we are. I've been launched now. We launched in June 2014. So we're a little over 4 years into it. We're in 76 countries now. I have 20 products, and just kind of riding that wave of just maintaining, purity of ingredients, focus on that, and treating my customers like gold, because they're the only reason I have a business. So I kind of feel like that accident rocked me right into definitely my passion, but also my purpose. Before that I was just bartending, kind of underachieving. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm at,
Yeah. And you were a high level athlete and doing some modeling, right? Were both of those things going on when you got hit, or were those previous life?
Yeah. So I was an athlete. So after college, I had an opportunity. I had a couple of pro teams come out to my high school and work me out individually. And it went well. I couldn't have done better, but they passed. And so I went down to LA kind of panicking, right? Like, I had a couple $100 in my account, didn't want to live at home. I've been an athlete my whole life, right? Like that's what I identified myself with, just kind of like taking care of my body, getting ready for the season to come up. And once that door closes, I panicked a little bit. And so I moved down to LA. I got a job at Abercrombie. I had I was scared to like not be able to pay rent. The last thing you want to do is like ask your parents for cash, right? So I just got as many jobs as I could. I was catering, bartending, but also my buddy was an actor. So I was helping him with his lines on this independent feature film. And it was a baseball related film, but I was fresh out of baseball. And so I was like kind of telling him how to say and act in certain situations, but I didn't really care. So I was nailing his lines. You know how like sometimes you don't really care with certain things and you nail it. You know what I mean? When it's kind of effortless and you don't overthink
Detached from the outcome, and it works better.
Exactly. So he's like, dude, have you ever thought about doing this? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, acting. I'm like, I don't know, maybe. So long story short, he got me a read for that role. I got a call back, another call back, a screen test. And I ended up booking that lead in a feature film, which never happens if you don't have representation. So that quickly, you know, one door closes, another door opens. So that closing of baseball led right into the entertainment industry. And I did that for years. I still do it. Technically, I'm still represented, but yeah, I mean, up until that accident, I was working pretty consistently as an actor and a model.
Very cool. Man. Yeah. There's, so walk me through like a little bit of the mental process that went down after you wake up in the hospital. You've been this athlete, really good looking guy, and still are, of course. But when you woke up and you realized that you've just been hit by 2 SUVs.
Yeah, it's it's tough because you have everyone around you, my closest friends and family members that are just you're really just happy to be alive at that point. The last thing you're thinking about is, oh, what am I going to do for my career? I mean, I even called in the place where I was working and says, yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it to work this week. I mean, I was in an ICU bed, but they thought that was kind of funny. I don't even remember that call. I think I was a little under the influence of some morphine. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it's panic. There's so many different emotions running right there. But just the focus, just going back to, hey, I'm here. You know, I'm still lucky to be alive. And I know I'm going to work my way out of it. You know, I just kept that mantra of like, the bones are going to grow back. My jaw's going to be back. Luckily I didn't hurt any ligaments in my elbows or knees or ankles. So I was able to go on walks with my jaw wired shut. I'd go on like this trail, this Chandler bike trail at night. It's like 3.2 miles there and 3.2 back. So we're looking at almost 6.5 miles of just at nighttime where I get the circulation going from head to toe. So I would really just purely out of necessity. I wasn't into health and wellness before the accident. So I kind of knew my ingredients, but obviously that was accelerated when it's purely out of necessity to just kind of heal yourself from the inside out. I couldn't get nutrition in my system. So I became very passionate about building my blood and getting really good nutrients in my system with this little shake that I was making through a straw in the back of my mouth. And then every part of every day, I mean, my swelling was just, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, jaw was out at least an inch, and I was unrecognizable. I had a lot of abrasions, a lot of scarring too. So it was hard to look in the mirrors, hard social situations going around and trying to talk and explain to people with your jaw wired shut what happened. The same people at the grocery stores, you know, your regular checkers and people that work at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. I kind of got tired of explaining. And so it left me a lot of time at home to just, you know, really seek out information and kind of test and use myself as my biggest science experiment, you know?
Yeah, that's right up your alley, Ant.
Yeah, this is great. I went through a period of having my jaw wired shut too after we were talking before we hit record when I ate that baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, jaw was wired shut. And what were you putting in those shakes that you were eating?
Oh, man. So my sister boiled down beets, right? And then we would have those in there, water-based, deer placenta. We would blend the beets, put the beets in there, egg yolks, Hoshu Wu, spirulina, beta-alanine, arginine, a lot of different amino acids, like agmatine sulfate, just to create a lot of blood flow and hopefully get those, you know, impurities out of the system and detox as soon as possible, because CT scan, x-rays, all those heavy metals. I mean, in antibiotics as well. I was just in a fog. Let's see, what else? Bison liver, that was another big one. Raw bison liver, by the way.
Wow.
It's in the first one that I made, I threw up because my system couldn't take it. So imagine throwing up.
That's a shocker here in those ingredients.
I know, yeah, right. But
your placenta, raw bison liver.
But throwing up through your wires, so like you're like, you know what I mean? You're like swallowing I don't want to gross any listeners out there, but yeah, I mean, that's what I had to do. I followed up and kind of toned down a little of the beets and made sure they were room temperature, but your system just rejects it because, you know, I had been drinking Ensure up until then. So they're not ready for all of that, all those different concoctions, especially the placenta and egg yolks. But I stuck with it, and I just felt that was going to be the best way to build the healthiest skin cells and really just get my system back together from head to toe, from the inside out. And I still do something similar to that every single day without I don't do the liver anymore. Definitely the yolks, deer placenta I don't do anymore, but I'm open to it. I just can't. I think Dragon Herb sells a encapsulated form of it, but Yeah, I mean, just trial and error. I mean, I'm sure you guys know how it is. It's just like I'll do anything. I will try anything if it's going to bring out some potentially some good benefit for me. I mean, topically, internally, I'm just kind of, this is what I love to do, and so it's worked out. But yeah.
Beautiful. Kerry brought up a great point. So Kerry's my VP of operations here at Biohacking Secrets, hanging out with us. And for any of the listeners who've enjoyed our episodes in the past, that third voice you hear is Kerry Jack hanging out.
Chime in like, who's that random guy? But it's interesting, Andy, because Ant was on his deathbed, from quote unquote Lyme disease, but other factors as well. And he biohacked himself to optimal wellness. But he was struggling to find the cure. I mean, the listeners know his story, those who've tuned in, but he really had to do similar human experimentation to get to where he is now and get back to optimal wellness. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty cool that this was something that you took on, and it sounds like you had a solid background because of your high level athletics, and the fact that you were paid to look good and stay in tip-top shape. And then you started applying it to the skin, the largest organ in our body.
Right.
How's your shake evolved? What does it look like today? And what ingredients are in there that you believe are most beneficial for the skin?
Right. So internally, I met with a few different Chinese herbalists who told me about different ingredients like schizandra, Hoshu Wu, gynostemma, let's see what else, cistanche, cordyceps, reishi mushroom, chaga, definitely turmeric, a little ashwagandha, black pepper for absorption. Let's see what else, gynostemma, man. I don't know if you ever tried gynostemma. That's one that's it definitely takes away from the taste, that's for sure. But it's just I really feel like getting that circulation, cleaning out your internal organs, like your liver, like your kidney, getting rid of all the poisons and the toxins that we absorb daily through the environment, through maybe some different types of pollution that we absorb through our largest organ. Like you said, it's just important that we keep those cleansed, and just building the blood from head to toe. I just felt like that was the best way that I was going to recover quickest, in addition to feeding myself from the outside, just cleansing myself from the inside as well, and removing all those impurities that antibiotics are the worst. I know you guys can relate. It's just, you feel like a zombie, and I didn't like that. I lost my zest there for a little bit. So I wanted to get that back. And so, I mean, every part of every single day had a purpose, I became absolutely obsessed and immersed in this. And just, now it's like you say, you just take this thing head on. I wanted to beat it. My goal was to get in better shape than I was before, but also just, to learn from it in the process. When it's done out of, purely necessity, I mean, you'll go to no end to find the latest and greatest just to help yourself,
Mm-hmm. How did you make all of this taste good? Was there a secret, or did you just kind of take what the end result was?
Well, I mean, Himalayan salt can only do so much. I mean, there's a little bit of lemon juice, the acidity in there kind of adds a little tang to it, but I just had to power it down with a little bit of aloe vera gel as well. I mean, I cut off the leaf there, and I'll dice up some turmeric. But both those things, aloe vera has like a slightly bitter taste to it. Turmeric doesn't really taste like much, but it's almost like a bad carrot, turmeric. But I've never really worried too much about taste. What about you guys? I'm purely for performance. But to let the listeners know out there, I mean, if you're going to try this, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yes, I've kind of been the same way most of my life. But then when I started helping other people and telling them some of my recipes, and they were like yakking on their kitchen floor, I realized I had to pay a little bit more attention to how what I was making tasted. And I love all of the ingredients that you've been incorporating. I was curious if you found a way to, or like a protein powder or meal replacement that was able to mask some of those.
I would say heating it up as a tea, maybe straining it a little bit, that may help it. But the texture when things are warm, do you ever notice that? Or a little bit, especially with the herbal teas and things like that, it's not quite as bad if you heat it up. But yeah, when it's cold, there's really, I mean, it's not for everyone. That's for sure. But I really felt like it, especially the amino acids are the worst culprits. But arginine, is just, arginine and gynostemma. It's just hard to get around those two. But
yeah, gynostemma, that's one of the ingredients that a lot of people use for weight loss and like blood sugar regulation, right? Or am I
I'm not sure about that. Let's see.
Not important.
Yeah, Andy, what was about that? But it's definitely possible. I mean, it's an ingredient that in the Chinese philosophy of vitality has been used for years, and just with the whole like building your blood from the inside out, cleansing it, impurities, and just increasing circulation and really feeding and nourishing the cells. I mean, that was the only way I could do it without being able to chew and ingest food at the time. So it's just, the Chinese philosophy, I really got into it, but back, I had a discussion about this just a couple of days ago. I had gray hairs in my goatee, and one of my professors in college pointed those out. I was like 21 at the time. Like, yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Moya. But so I became very, just into a way to counteract that, but through herbs, Chinese herbs. And so there I was 21. I found my first ingredient, Ho Shu Wu, and I started taking that by the teaspoon. And I have kind of dark blonde hair, but it really turned my hair almost jet black. So yeah, it counteracted the grays. And so to the people out there I really feel like the faux tea, Ho Shu Wu, full tea multiflorum. I'll find like the Latin version of it, but I'll give you guys, I use Jing herbs is my source that I like to use, but that's something
I can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I went from dark blonde to pretty much not jet black, but dark brown. But the grays in my goatee were gone within months. Seriously. So
that's a huge biohack right there.
Yeah. I mean, you can read up on this stuff too. There's some pretty profound experiments, and so yeah,
that's exciting, man. So you started making this clay mask to help with healing and recovery.
Yeah.
What was your first breakthrough moment when you started realizing some of the things that you were putting together were next level for regenerating the skin?
So I was doing an existing mask before the accident, just as a brightening treatment. To every Sunday night I would do a bentonite, Rasul clay, and ascorbic acid, just mix, and it would really increase a lot of blood flow to the dermis of my skin and just really create a brightened, smooth complexion to where I would wake up the next day. And I mean, this is when I was just kind of throwing things together, not down to the decimal where it is now with the formula, but it was something. It was just undeniably effective with creating a lot of blood flow and circulation and getting those stagnant capillaries moving throughout on the dermal layer of your skin. And so it is something that I was doing before. And so obviously after the accident, it just was turned up big time. And then I started researching spa treatments. I started, I was buying pearl powder to help clean out my liver and kidney. But I was like, I would look at it and the particle size was so soft and smooth, and I would add a little water to it. And I started isolating that and going, wait a minute.
You said pearl powder?
Yeah. Freshwater pearl powder.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, freshwater pearl powder, amazing stuff. The geishas have been using it for centuries to create an even skin tone. It's like a hierarchy type of thing in their culture, to where the more the whiter, more pale, and even your skin tone is, it means you haven't been out in the rice fields working. It's like they're like these brighter brightening creams that they're selling now that are pearl powder based. But I didn't know that back in the time. Back then, it was purely just an experiment of throwing it together with my existing clay mask, and I started adding that to it as well, and just mixing it. And I felt saw an undeniable smoothness, but also just creating like minimizing just the discoloration around my skin that the abrasions gave my skin from just the different gashes that I had. And then so the whole idea of creating that blood flow, lightly exfoliating, and then just creating that smooth skin tone from things like the pearl powder, and then adding things like first 6-hour milking grass-fed colostrum. That's been a huge one, of adding just that subtle IGF-1 growth factor component to the area that you just exfoliated, right? And so then I started doing research, and I found out that kelp powder is an amazing ingredient as well. It's almost like a spirulina. It's an algae, kelp derived, where it's loaded in vitamin A, C, K, B12, sodium alginate, mean, you're feeding that area with a very potent antioxidant as well as the pearl powder. So at this point, I had bentonite, rossul, kaolin, and islite, which is also sometimes referred to as French green clay. It's edible. And so I had nothing but time, right? So I was throwing things together. I was isolating things, and then a lot of things didn't work. Many ingredients did not work. But it became my own little creative outlet. I moved everything out of my bedroom into my living room and made my bedroom my little lab. I mean, luckily I have pictures to document the stuff, but it was my own little creative outlet. And all I wanted to see was some type of result. And every single time, it was a combination of the clays and the ascorbic acid that pulled a lot of that circulation to this dermis, which, it just felt good to see. All right, well, to see and feel some type of result every single time I would do the mask. And then subtly adding in certain things like American ginseng, like the pearl powder, kelp powder, and then the colostrum. I mean, it turned into like the superfood meal for the skin that I do every other day up until now. I mean, but it was a long time coming. The same people who saw me in the ICU were so blown away when I picked Christina is her name. I picked her up from the airport a couple of weeks after after I left the hospital. She saw me in the ICU bed, and she was like blown away. My jaw was wired shut, and obviously the scar was still there, and there was still some swelling, but my skin was as clear as it's ever been. And I swear it's because of just staying extremely consistent with this mask and then following up with this potion, which is now my night cream. I have the first one up there that I melted down with cacao butter, beeswax, manuka honey, sea buckthorn oil, colostrum in a cast iron pan, just purely to create the most nutrient dense, almost like a paste. I had no intention of making a night cream or making a mask. I just wanted to heal my skin and just create it. The whole idea of creating blood flow and circulation, exfoliating, and then hydrating and nourishing that area that you just exfoliated, it just made sense to me. And, your skin being your largest organ. I didn't want to use these creams and serums that were loaded with parabens and stearates and fillers and alcohol and preservatives and fragrance that don't serve the skin. I mean, and I was seeing results, which is the most important thing. So I just became addicted to that. And so Christine's just like, I want to try some. So I went over to her house with this little clear plastic container, and I hand shook it, and it smelled brutal. Don't get me wrong at the time, because I was using too much kelp, and let's be honest, apple cider vinegar combined with kelp and clays, doesn't smell that good. But I would add a little lavender oil to it, clary sage, lemongrass to make it manageable. But I'm all about results, as you were talking about with the morning tonics and things like that. I just want stuff that's gonna work, and I don't really care about the taste. But the same thing with the skin. And if it was healing my skin, which it was, I'm like, I'll do whatever. So she fell in love with it. Obviously, had some complaints about the kelp. This was my beta testing phase. Basically, word began to spread. She told her friends, and her friends started to tell their friends. And for about a year and a half, I was driving around LA with a backpack and a bottle of Bragg's apple cider vinegar, which is a clear plastic container. And all I wanted, I was still working at night. And it was my little creation. I never charged anybody. I just wanted to know if they saw and felt the same results as I did, and they did. It just became like this little thing. Never charged, didn't have a website, no name. And it was just fun. It's like creating a meal for people. All you want to know is if they love it. And so if they liked it. So people did. And that was when I knew I had something. And then about a year and a half later, I troubleshooted Dave Asprey's email address in hopes of working for Bulletproof. But he got back to me. I'm telling you, I went D.Asprey, Dave.Asprey, Asprey.Dave, David, Dave.
You're emailing all those?
Yeah. I copy pasted the same email because I found the contact info at the bottom of their support page. And I'm like, all right, well, if it's info at Bulletproof Exec at this time, that's what it was. I'm like, well, it can't be that far off. And one of them went through. I did a before picture of myself.
Oh, that's great.
A before picture of myself in the ICU bed, and then an after picture like me, back and like whatever, working again as a model. I'm going, hey man, thanks so much. It's because of your products. I helped bounce back. At that point, I never drank coffee before, but I was using Bulletproof coffee in the morning to help, bounce back. If you never drank coffee and your first, go at coffee is Bulletproof, obviously it's going to be a pretty profound reaction. And it led to my motivation to help, accelerate my recovery. And so I was very thankful for that. And so I reached out to him, and they brought me on board as an ambassador. And then a couple months after that, he had me on his podcast, Bulletproof Radio. And I was just like talking to you about recovery. Obviously, none of this was supposed to, we didn't plan to talk about skincare because I didn't have a company at the time. And he's like, well, what'd you do with your skin? and this is the last, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of the podcast. I'm like, oh man, millions of people around the world are going to find out that I'm like all over, really into skincare. And as a guy, honestly, at that time, I kind of was like a little hesitant. I'm like, whatever, screw it. It's on the spot. I'm like, I just explained. I'm like, hey, if it can help somebody else out there in a similar situation, then why not? And so we just went through it. He's like, it was not planned. So he got such a response from people all around the world. I think he had, one of the top podcasts on iTunes at the time. So millions of downloads. And I just gave out my personal email address. People were contacting me directly, wondering how they could buy it. I had to come up with a price point. I signed up for a PayPal account, $35 free shipping. Sounded good, but there I was. I had something that people wanted, and that's a pretty damn good feeling, man. And so I just, from that point on, it's just pure adrenaline of not running out. I had enough for 20 orders or whatever. And I would send them off. Free shipping sounded good, but when you're, shipping's $23 to Sweden at the time, and it shows up in a little, just in shambles, people are really sweet. He's got such a good following, like an understanding following at that. So, but the best part of it is that the product works. And so from that point on, Dave got back to me. He invested in the brand. I had a bulletproof product. Alitura was on his site 3 months later. So that's a trip. I mean, that's honestly how it all happened. So
wow, how'd you come up with the name?
So Alitura, we went. That's a great question. We went from Golden Glow. I mean, that sounds like a bronzer, right? I'm like, all right, well, this Golden Glow. I'm like, that sounds good, right? Golden Glow, no W. Golden Glow, all one word. And like, people shot that down pretty quickly. And then we came up with Alitura, which is Latin for feeding and nourishing. Your skin being the largest organ, you want to essentially treat it like another mouth and nourish it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we went with, and it's 2000.
Good name.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great name. I love that. I love that ready, fire, aim approach too, where you just kind of,
we do that a lot.
Yeah.
And you got to go for it. It's like, I strongly believed I had something, and believe me, a lot of people were like, I love your story. Best of luck to you. And basically saying no. I mean, but that's life, man. You got to keep pounding the pavement, staying extremely persistent. I really felt I had something, and so I'm glad I stuck with it.
You did, and now you do.
Oh, nice. You mentioned some of the ingredients that you didn't want to put in your products. So for someone listening that has maybe some skincare products that they've used for a while, what are some of the ingredients that are the most problematic that they want to look out for on the label?
Okay, so when you look, it's like when you look at so many labels these days. I mean, one of the biggest brands has it where they fold the ingredient, the paper, and so like the last fold will have just this nightmare list of just government recognized carcinogens, and that's terrible. How the lengths people are going to hide their ingredients. But
what letter does that company start with?
K.
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 Yeah, K. Yeah.
Does it rhyme with Justin Timberlake's wife's maiden name? Beal, Jessica Biel.
Yeah. There you go. And it's unbelievable to me, man. I mean, you look through the first couple raps, sound great, and then the last one, it's just yellow 5. Propylene glycol, glycerin. I don't know if propylene glycol is in theirs, but I'm saying these are the ingredients that you want to watch out for. Propylene glycol for sure. Glycerin. It's an emulsifying agent that people use as bonding, but I think it's a filler. It doesn't, I'd rather fill it with something that really serves the skin and holds benefit to the skin. The different alcohols, cetyl alcohol. I mean, there are, within the first 3 to 5 ingredients, a lot of the times you'll see foaming agents, fragrances, artificial fragrance. Natural fragrant oil is not that. Natural fragrance is not that. I mean, it's almost like the natural flavor is so common in food products, which is a government recognized term for monosodium glutamate, which is an ingredient, MSG, that crosses a blood-brain barrier that tells yourself that you love what you're eating and that you want more. You know what I mean? It's just, and so that's
it's used by these emotions I'm feeling.
I'm completely, it's not how we like to do things. And so I like to just focus on the active ingredients and the purest, cold pressed essential oils, things like, royal jelly, beeswax. I've been so fascinated with just how molecularly complex and healing bee products have been in my recovery. When I was in the ICU bed, a friend of mine put a jar of Manuka honey down on my little table, and he's like, put that on your scar. And then, so that's what got me into making it. It's a essential ingredient in my night cream right now. That was the paste that I was telling you guys about, that I would melt down with cacao butter and sea buckthorn oil. And it just, I just really felt like the most nutrient dense, rich ingredients in a combination of different oils, and extracts, and botanicals were going to serve the skin and speed up my recovery in the best way, as opposed to something synthetic and man-made, like, you know, with foaming agents and laced with fragrances that don't serve the skin, are very, you know, highly carcinogenic.
Yeah, for sure. So for people that aren't watching the video and are just listening to this, you have great skin. How young are you?
I'm 36. Thank you, by the way.
36. Same age. Nice. Okay, great. So if you can, walk us through a little bit of like, what does your daily routine for skincare look like? And then for the things that you consider important that you don't do daily, maybe you do them on like a weekly basis, what does that look like?
Okay, so, man, 3 to 5 times a week, I'll wake up, and I'll just go through my whole routine. What I'll do every single day, I wake up and I try to get a little blood flowing as soon as possible, whether that's push-ups to failure. It's usually push-ups to failure, some air squats. But I read some article in Men's Health way back in the day that says like it's something about like as soon as, like circadian rhythm wise, as soon as you wake up, and to kind of shock the system, get yourself into like a primal state of just, you know, putting yourself, getting that blood flow into doing something to failure. It's almost like running from your prey from a primal aspect, right? Maybe you guys can back me up on that, but that's something that I've really noticed, that as soon as you wake up, as soon as you open your eyes and get that blood flowing from something that you've done to failure, that's something that's really increased a lot of energy immediately. And so what I'll do after that is I'll go in, I'll mix up my morning tonic, which is largely composed of herbs, Chinese herbs, amino acids. I'll take my supplements, things like astaxanthin, vitamin K2, D3, silica, krill oil. And then I'll put probably 3 to 5 times a week, I'll use a derma roller to open up my dermal layer of the skin, which kind of has these tiny titanium needles that act as like a little, like, it's like you're aerating your front lawn almost, to open up the soil, to introduce like really good nutrients to the soil. It's the same idea of opening up the dermal layer of your skin and optimizing absorption of the ingredients of in this case, the clay mask that I put on after that. So I'll roll for, 3 to 5 minutes and really open up that dermal layer for optimal absorption of the clay mask. And so I'll mix up a mask, and then I do a lot, man. I just love this stuff. And I know you guys do too. So you don't think I'm weird. I hang upside down the inversion table to create a lot of circulation right to my head where I'm wearing the mask. And
I like that.
My tonic. And so I'm getting all that blood rushing to my head. I'm lengthening out my spine. I got Sade going in the background. So like I got a little meditation going too. After that's done,
what's in the background?
A little Sade, No Ordinary Love, man. That's my favorite song.
These are biohackers.
It's just, it's a great way to set the tone for the day.
Yeah.
Set the intentions and get the mind going right. And that's just what I do. And I stay, the biggest thing with this is just stay consistent with it. I mean, I do 300 plus days out of the year. And then after that, we'll rinse off the mask. I'll make a little bulletproof coffee. I'd like to add a couple things to that, a little cayenne, little gelatinized maca, tribulus, little stevia, organic raw chocolate powder, and octane, brain octane oil, and then a little grass-fed butter. I'll blend that up, and man, I'm good to go. So come 8 or 9 a.m. and I'm just on fire. I intermittent fast. You guys do that too?
Oh yeah.
And regular.
Yeah. And so I don't know.
I mean, a 5-day fast, right? That's 120 hours or something.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's next. I've never done that. I was talking to Katie from Wellness Mom, and she just did one of those, the 5-day water fasts recently. And she had so much to say about just what it does for your cells, and just, booting out toxins and helping them clean themselves. So I'm going to start, I may do one of those next week.
It's amazing. The only hesitation I have, it's hard, but I'm all right doing hard stuff. Productivity can take some dips throughout. And when you have things that are scheduled during your it's hard to find 5 days where you can just
Oh yeah.
Not showing up at 100% for shit.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that was my hesitation, but Katie made a good point. It's like, I mean, the results are, I mean, and what it does at a cellular level, I mean, for preventing cancer, and man, there's just so much. What is cell autophagy? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you get autophagy, like the self-eating of cells. It gets rid of, you get mitophagy too, like your mitochondria that aren't working that well.
Wow.
They end up clearing those out and then making new mitochondria, and your mitochondria duplicate more, and then your stem cells activate. There's all sorts of crazy, amazing shit where, like, if people could pay for it and not have to do the 5-day fasts, it would be a $1 billion drug.
Yeah. Hey, so I got to ask you, how do you feel throughout? I heard day 2 is brutal. I think I can power through it. I don't know, man. We'll see. But I mean,
you could
You've
for
been
sure.
through a lot. You could handle
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd be fine. What I have folks do is, like, usually start out with just a weekly 24-hour fast and kind of get the hang of that. And when that's, like, it's never going to be a walk in the park, but when it's pretty easy, where you hit maybe a couple spots where you get hungry, but you push through and you're fine, then you do a few where you go more towards 36 hours a week. And then you are pretty much ready for, like, the longer 3 to 5 day fast. I would do a 3-day first, and then after that, maybe a 4 or a 5 day. But if you build up like that, it's a lot like working out, where your body gets used to it. And the more you push, like the first time you go to 18 hours, if you haven't been there, that's the hardest. And then most of the time, unless you're under a lot of stress, acute or chronic, going to 18 hours is easier every subsequent time. And it's the same as you continue to build up.
Right. And so with my coffee in the morning, is that disrupting the intermittent fast, do you think?
It's better to do it black. And I like going no calories, no artificial sweeteners, and I don't even really mess with anything. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of exogenous ketones if I'm struggling. And, like, I don't want to throw in the towel, or maybe I'll do some, like, a greens powder that's like 30 calories in a whole scoop to help power through. Cause I'm like, all right, this is better than pussing out and bailing on my fast, because I've already invested a lot in this. Sometimes I'll do things like that, but you feel it out. And, like, if you have it scheduled consistently, then it's not a worry, because like, all right, I'm doing this every quarter if it's like a 3 to 5 day fast, or I'm doing this every week if it's like a 24-hour fast. So you don't need to put so much stock in the results of that particular fast, because you're going to be doing it again. It's a part of the way you live your life. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And just so you know, Andy, we'll probably keep it for another 5 or so more minutes. I'm going to segue us back to skin.
Yes.
For the listeners.
Yes. I've got a bunch. I got a bunch of questions for you, man.
Get some actionable takeaways for the listeners for their skin. Someone maybe who's struggling.
All right. For the listeners and me. All right. So someone like me, like, I've gravitated away from the Jessica Biel products and a lot of the things that I'd used in the past. I tried Botox once and it was a nightmare. I was, like, in bed for a day. I felt like complete garbage. That was in 2015. That's an embarrassing story we'll get to another time. But for someone like me who's looking for maximum impact, minimum time, I'm actually all right with that mask. I'm pretty interested in making that a part of my routine. I can handle once a week. What would you recommend for someone like me? Like some of the Alitura products and how to use them?
Sure. So what we do with the system, it's if you're doing a clay mask for maintenance every other day, or like you said, just once a week is fine as well. But maintaining, we use a pearl cleanser, which is that same freshwater pearl powder base. And then we add a little colloidal silver to eat up that bacteria. We don't add any, fillers or any preservatives that damage the skin, or any harsh fragrances or artificial colors that don't serve the skin as well. So we have a lot of extracts in there and cold pressed essential oils to help. It's kind of that idea that painters use with oil cleaning the paintbrushes with the oil paints. And so oil cleaning oil and removing some of that oil and dirt that's embedded deep into our pores. The whole system of exfoliating and then also cleansing with the pearl cleanser, and then hydrating with, I use our moisturizer. It has a number of different botanical extracts like German chamomile, sea buckthorn, ylang ylang, carrot seed, calendula, royal jelly, and a cacao butter, aloe vera, and beeswax base. But and that's 95% organic. So, I mean, something like that, just treating your skin like another mouth, basically.
All right. So Andy, so for a guy like me who isn't using too many face products at the moment, if there was one product from the Alitura line that would have the biggest impact for me, and then if I were to pick up like a few and follow a minimalist routine that will make my skin look amazing, what would you recommend?
Oh man, so I would, if you're going to take the time to do a clay mask 1 to 3 times a week, I highly recommend doing it. It's just really going to just increase a lot of blood flow to the surface, but also lightly exfoliate. I mean, if you want to set aside a time to do that, you know, say Sunday night, to kind of set the tone for the week and just create a really nice brightened complexion and just really minimize those pores and keep a nice tight complexion, cleanse complexion, clean out all the pores and minimize at the same time. That's a great way to start, but also just maintaining that through, we have a great pearl cleanser with, that has a little colloidal silver in it, as well as a pearl powder base and some different botanical extracts and essential oils from the same idea of just, you know, with like oil paintings. And so with the whole like idea of them using a solution of oil to help clean the brushes, like oil essentially removes a lot of that oil and dirt. So we use that as a basic mission for our cleanser as well. And then following that, we have a daytime facial moisturizer that is 95% organic. It's just so important to stay away from the moisturizers that have the artificial fragrance and the sodium benzoate, the citric acid, phenoxyethanol, these, you know, harsh preservatives that don't serve the skin. And a lot of them are, you know, using a water and alcohol and glycerin base and then adding a speck of an active ingredient. I mean, you want to have every part of that formula to be used to hydrate and heal the skin as well as condition it and just give yourself that glow. A night cream or a serum to repair and hydrate your skin while you sleep, while you're in one position for essentially, you know, hopefully 6 to 8 hours, right? I mean, just that's the best way. I think that getting a good, dense, hydrating night cream or serum that you use and apply every single night, I think that's going to, you know, be your best benefit on top of just a weekly protocol of doing a derma roller and doing a mask. It's just going to, you know, you're feeding your largest organ, but also removing a lot of the environmental pollutants and detoxing as well as conditioning the skin. So yeah, I mean, that whole idea of if you're going to take the time to do a mask a couple times a week, you're really going to experience the benefits of cleansing that skin and also just reconditioning it and removing a lot of impurities that we absorb at the same time.
So that derma roller plus the mask is it sounds like number one, and then the night serum number two, the day moisturizer number three.
So yeah, we have a night cream and a gold serum. They both work great together at night, but either one of those is great. And then a daytime moisturizer to keep the skin just nice and conditioned and hydrated is just a very good way to maintain moisture throughout the day. So the sun, you know, beating down, you're just not drying out and creating a lot of the fine lines and wrinkles that come with that. And so, yeah, I would go, you know, a mask and derma roller. Number two would be find a nighttime protocol, whether it's a serum, night cream. I do both. And then definitely using a facial cleanser, or pearl cleanser is what I use. And then a daytime moisturizer as well.
Beautiful. A couple quick questions.
Sure.
What's the best nutritional template for someone that's looking to level up their skin? If we're talking like raw, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, ketogenic, just to generalize, which one have you seen have the biggest positive impact on people's skin?
So what I like to do is paleo. It's paleo, and with, you know, just I really like good fatty meats, things like ribeyes, grass-fed beef, grass-fed lamb. Just with that good, vitamin K2 content in that animal fat. I just really believe in that, as well as the gelatin content. And it's so rich in amino acids that we're depleted in as we age. And so I really like good red meat, at least three to four times a week myself. And then I'll supplement that with softer proteins like pastured eggs. Let's see, what else? Collagen protein. I use daily. Wild sockeye salmon, a lot of nutrient dense vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, sweet potato, beets have that good nitric oxide content to really build that blood and vascularity, which, you know, with the little capillaries we have in our face, that's very important to keep those oxygenated as well. I would also recommend anti-inflammatory diet with things like, you know, ginger, ginger, turmeric, cayenne has been known to reduce some inflammation, and then also taking care of your gut. I don't do too much of a probiotic standpoint protocol, but I'll do digestive enzymes, things like, let's see, what do I do? Wob enzymes are great. I eat a lot of fermented vegetables, a lot of krauts, just to maintain that good gut biome and just make sure that I'm, you know, digesting, absorbing a lot of the nutrients from the vegetables that I'm eating. I stay away from grains, dairy, and sugar. And I stay as nutrient dense with the vegetables that serve a purpose. And then also I get a lot of really good fats from things like coconut, definitely avocados when they're in season, and, you know, olive oil and Brazil nuts for the selenium content, grass-fed butter, and ghee, I would say, are my favorite assortments for really good fats.
Andy, this is awesome, man. You've not only made me hungry, but you've reinvigorated my passion to take my skincare up a notch and stop slacking, because I had been for a long time. So I'm going to get involved with that. With aerating my face and using that mask. I can promise once a week for sure to start. Maybe I'll get a little crazy with it, and
that's awesome.
Once I see some progress, get it going a little bit more. We've put together something for the listeners, right, where they can try your Alitura line and some of the different things that we've talked about here at a discount, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to give a 20% discount on the entire store, packages as well. We can just call it Biohack.
Yeah, let's call it, if we can, let's call it Biohacks, Biohacks.
Yeah, Biohacks. We'll call it Biohacks. And yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions, I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. So, I mean, please reach out, Andy@AlituraNaturals.com. Happy to answer any questions. It's just the whole idea of just cleansing the skin and just, you know, keep, you know, lightly exfoliating and then healing it with nutrient dense ingredients and hydrating it and then repairing at night while we sleep.
This is great.
Nice and simple.
We've got the hookup for Andy's line at bestbiohacks.com/Alitura, ALITURA. And that discount code, 20% off, is Biohacks, BIOHACKS. And if any of that happens to change, we'll make sure we let you guys know in the show notes and description. Andy, this has been awesome, man. I've had a lot of fun hanging out. And
hey, likewise.
Yeah, we'll keep me posted on other stuff that you're releasing, and as new stuff joins the line, we'll have to hang out again and talk about what the leading edge of skincare is. What's you've got in the works.
No, I love it. Hey, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and yeah, next time out in Florida, I'll let you guys know.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, would love to. We'll go fishing or do something fun here in Jupiter.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, later, bro.
See you, Andy.
See you guys later.